Greetings, Sentinels fans. What better time to talk about love and affection than the week after Valentine's Day? However, in respect to the equally important holiday, Single Awareness Month, I will make this list a list of my top 10 romances and bromances in Sentinels of the Multiverse. To define my terms, romance is pretty much what you expect. Bromance I categorize as a wonderful friendship. I'm not going to restrain this list to men because that would be silly. As long as these people display an amazing friendship, they are eligible for the list. I'm going to begin with the honorable mentions this time. A bunch of love interests and good friendships are in the lore, but they've never been given any representation in the games. We never see Dr. Medico's husband, Caleb Green. We never see Captain Cosmic's love interest, Princess Xylene. Karen Gold, who was Absolute Zero's girlfriend for a while, or Argent Adept's friend and colleague, Soothsayer Carmichael. That last one in particular makes me sad. Soothsayer seems like a fun foil for Argent Adept. Similarly, the relationship between Unity and Benchmark doesn't make the list because while we know the two of them as individuals, we don't know them as a couple. Emily Parsons enters this category as well because when she is mentioned, it's usually in her capacity as a senator, not as Paul's wife or Felicia's mother. And on the friendship side, I am sad to take Naturalist and Akash 3 off the list. I love the interplay. Akash originally punishes Kante, only for him to come back much wiser and help Akash in a time of need, as well as convince her to help right some wrongs. They become a duo for a decent amount of time, too. And finally, the romance that fought real hard for the number 10 spot, but didn't quite make it. They are Wraith and Bunker. These two have been around from the start, but nothing indicated they were a couple until very late. Now with the development of the Freedom 5 game and the definitive edition of Sentinels, we are seeing more art of them being a thing retconned in. And of course, they are actively dating as of the RPG. What bumps them off the list for me though, is that I'm not sure I'm fully on board with the pairing. That doesn't mean I'm against it, mind. I would just like to see them more before I fully commit to the pairing. And now that I've made you wait so patiently, let's get to the actual list. Number 10. Tachyon and Dana Bertrand. Very first one, and we have an LGBT one. We all know our favorite speedster, but who is Dana Bertrand? She is a model and a professional damsel in distress. She is also Tachyon's wife. The two of them have their challenges, not the least of which are both of their occupations, but they make it work, and has worked for a few decades. Meredith and Dana are one of the few couples that have the honor of having a wedding issue. Also, there's just something adorable about these two. Number 9. Citizens Hammer and Anvil. And our first featured bromance is the unusual villain set. Citizens Hammer and Anvil are the leading duo among the Citizens of the Sun. Hammer is an enthusiastic, psychotic arsonist who is more than happy to kick ass for Dawn. Anvil is pretty much there to make sure Hammer doesn't go too far. He needs someone to rein in, and the silent Anvil is the perfect calming influence. They are almost never seen apart, always at each other's backs. Number 8. Mainstay and Stuntman. And I can already tell people are getting upset with me because I put them this low on the list. This is a more recent development, and by recent I mean at around the Oblivion event. After doing evil stuff on Mars and getting a stern talking to by Chrono Ranger, Ansel kindly ambled about for a while, and he met up with Mainstay. And apparently, Mainstay is a huge fan of Ansel's acting career, so he enthused about Ansel's movies. Ansel revealed his villainous past, then they got into a bar fight together. As you do. They kicked ass and chewed bubblegum, though they were out of gum. We don't have a lot on them, but the Road Warriors story and when they teamed up against Borderly Unstable. No idea how they are doing now, but we can hope they remain friends. Next, we have number 7, Night Mist and Harpy. It's a personal belief of mine that a healthy relationship is indistinguishable from a good friendship. And this is one of those cases where the line between them is kinda blurred. While Lillian was in prison after doing the whole matriarch rampage, she got a hold of the Mask of the Matriarch again, but the spell went wrong, and the birds attacked her. Tachyon got Night Mist, who saved Lillian, broke the curse on the mask, and taught her to control the magic. They were very close as master and apprentice. They worked together with the Dark Watch all the way until the Oblivion event, when Night Mist sacrificed herself to be the gate, leaving Harpy behind. Night Mist was a big part in helping Harpy grow, and once Harpy was ready, Night Mist had to let go. Number 6, Ermin and Fright Train. And here we have the even rarer villain romance. I will not belabor the size difference because I already went into that in the heights and weights video. However, I do like these two low-end villains sticking together, even though they both work very differently. I think it is the contrast between these two that I love most. Fright Train is strong and direct, Ermin is subtle and sneaky. Fright Train is coarse and rough, Ermin is smooth and refined. I have no idea how it works, but they make it work. Number 5. Knife and Skyscraper. Here's another one that sits very close to the line between romance and bromance. Knife is known to have a lot of flings. A few heroes, villains, and a whole lot of no-name characters have entered her bed. However, she considers Skyscraper a safe person, someone she doesn't have to worry about getting close to. She has a fear of commitment, and Sky is safe in that regard. The problem is that Sky is into Knife. She wants the relationship, but Knife does not. So Portia has to be the best friend she can be, but Paige doesn't want to get serious. Does this mean she's friend-zoning her? It also doesn't help that Knife continues to be her promiscuous self with other people, and Sky has to bear with that. Oh, the drama. There is some hope though. In the RPG, Knife and Skyscraper, now going by Rival and Vantage, are in a book called Star-Crossed, leading me to believe that it will be about their personal relationship in some way. I hope for the best for them. Number 4. Unity and Omnitron. What can tug at your heartstrings more than a friendship between a woman and a robot? Don't answer that. It's often a question of how much a robot actually feels and how much of it is us humans projecting onto them. It doesn't help that Omnitron X spent a good deal of his early life being a genocidal murder machine, so when he is not being dismissed, he is looked at with suspicion. Deborah Caspit is the only one who looked at him as a friend. She welcomed him, got him integrated into the world, and laid the groundwork for him to become a true hero. And after he was destroyed and seemed lost, she stopped at nothing to get him back. Ronnie continues to find his place in the world along her side. Number 3. Absolute Zero and Tachyon. This is my favorite friendship, and again, it is two people that are very different. One thing I noticed while making this list is that the best pairings are usually the ones that promote personal growth for both sides. Tachyon is cheerful, lighthearted, and always pushing her limits. Absolute Zero is cynical and depressed, but has an iron will. It's kinda interesting really. The two of them probably would never have met if Absolute Zero wasn't who he was, and presented a scientific challenge to Tachyon. They spent time in the lab, and in time they hung out and got to know each other and support one another. Ryan confided in Meredith about his tragic past, and she worked to make his life comfortable. They went to shows, they talked to each other about books they like, they worked together. In time they began to rub off on each other. Absolute Zero learned to reach for something more, allowing him to at least begin his fight out of depression and give him his impossible perseverance. Tachyon learned to settle, not move too fast, and she got the grounding that she needs to not burn out. It is amazing the positive impacts they had on each other, allowing them to grow and evolve and become better heroes and better people as they go. Number 2. Ra and Fnatic. We are back to romance again, and this is one that we haven't run into yet. Best frenemies. Ra and Fnatic, simply due to their opposing theologies and shared brash attitudes, did not always get along. Their conversations turned to arguing. Their arguing turned to fighting. When it seemed Ra had turned on the world, Fnatic did not hesitate to go after him. But when it was revealed that Ra was framed and had fallen victim to the Ennead, she did not hesitate to save his life. The two would carry on then, making each other extraordinarily angry, only for them to end up making up afterwards. So far, so fun, but why are they so high up on this list? Well, here's a moment that made me cry. Standing on a hill behind the base was a hero who had been absent during the entire conflict, accompanied by a highly unlikely contingent. Blazing like the sun itself, Ra strode forward, followed by all of the Ennead and even Anubis. "Your torment of this reality ends here," the god of the sun shouted as the gods broke into a run. The cosmic entity stood, unmoving as they approached. As they reached the walls of the base, the terrible entity turned its awful gaze to fall upon them. The world erupted in fire. Shakily recovering from the massive blast, the heroes made an ungainly retreat under the maelstrom of cosmic energy as the sky rained fire. Crackling beams of energy erupted from the eyes of their cosmic foe, burning the ground where the gods had stood. As she flew a wide arc around the base, Fnatic caught a glimpse of the entity, glowering at his now damaged torso before tearing a hole through reality and walking through it to somewhere or someone else. Ra's attack had landed, and now the heroes knew the entity could be damaged. However, there was no time to rejoice. The Avenging Angel landed just outside the gates of Fort Adamant in a scattering of scorched and smoking relics. The very things that brought the Ennead into being were all that remained of them. In the midst of the field lay Ra. He was propped up on one elbow, still pointing his staff in the direction of his recently departed foe. Fanatic had never seen him looking worse. "If you can't stand the heat," croaked the god of the sun. "Shh," Elena whispered as she rolled him over, fretting over his burned flesh. He looked up at her, with the one eye he could still open. "You always were the strongest, my friend," he rasped. "Not strong enough," growled the angel, looking at her broken ally, helplessly fighting back tears. He leaned forward to breathe his last words. "I always had faith in you." Hours passed. A lone, winged figure stood. Fanatic was ready. This was no game. You may now pause the video to cry. Go ahead, I can wait. The love they had, exhibited both positively and negatively, is strong and tragic. In the RPG, Fanatic still grieves for him. And number 1, Setback and Expatriate. I admit, my favorite ship got to the top of the list, but it's still a wonderful thing. This is another case of opposites attract. Expatriate is a dour and cynical character with a ton of family issues. And when I say family issues, I mean like dad got killed by mom kind of issues. While Setback is an optimistic and cheerful guy, even in the face of adversity. I just realized that. Though to be fair, they present these qualities differently. Absolute Zero's cynicism translates into depression, whereas Expatriate's is shown as a murderous drive. Tachyon's cheerfulness has her push her knowledge and abilities. Setbacks translates into sincere, idealistic, borderline obnoxious optimism. And this time it's the cheerful person who has the calming influence on the hothead. He allows her to take more joy in life, spend some time enjoying the moment instead of working herself to death. In turn, she brings focus and purpose to his life, where he previously was pretty aimless. But wait, there's more. Setback impresses the need to do the right thing on Expatriate, not just to take the easy way, which she and her guns have a habit of taking. And of course, Expat has worked to lessen Setback's naivete, something that has gotten him into trouble more than once. What's more, they work well together. Expat sees the long game, fights at a range, is elimination focused, and creates plans and backup plans, while Setback sees the short term, fights up close, is protection focused, and works on instinct. Granted, he works on instinct because no plan ever works around him. And they have even worked to a point where Expatriate has a feel for Setback's strange luck, and is able to capitalize on it. Not to mention they are just so gosh darn cute together. So I put Setback and Expatriate as the number 1 relationship. And there you have it, friends, another list for you to enjoy. Next week we are going to lay back, because I have a couple of milestones I wish to celebrate. I hope to see you then. Take care, friends. It's a personal belief of mine that help. Get your emissions checked, jerk. And I had to get to the computer for this because no way was I copying all that to the script.